Alright, so this is what we're looking at for P1 Savage Tiles mechanic. It seems like there's some pretty cool ways that you can go about handling it, and there's two patterns, right? So I call this the 1-2 or 2-1 pattern here on the left because north and south are your wild cards. You have one element, then two elements, or two elements, then one element. And then this other pattern you get is the triple element, where there's three of one, and then the mirror, where it goes wah, wah, wah. I guess it could be like a sandwich. I called it mirror because top mirrors bottom or whatever. I don't know, man. That's just what I was feeling. Some people have already figured out like a way to do this, and I'm just trying to figure out what way is going to work in Party Finder because everyone's like relearning this, every group so far. Um, I think the second one's really easy to resolve, to be honest, because the second one, you'll notice that the DPS corners are all exactly the same, and they all start on fire, they all end on fire, and all the intercardinals, except for the triple, you just, you have, they all start on ice, and then the healers end on fire, and the tanks end on ice. So for DPS, it's pretty easy because they can grab their corner fire, then they can go south and grab their ice, and then they can go back to their corners, grab their fire, right? Easy peasy. For tanks, it's a little bit different. They both grab their ice on the first one, and then they both go north to grab fire, and then again, easy. They go back home for north and south to resolve their ice. And then for healers, they go east and west to pick up their ice, and then they go mid to hang on to their ice, and then they go east and west to resolve. That way, south, right, gets some action, north gets some action on that second tick. I think that resolves the mechanic really, really well. For the tiles for 1-2, it gets a little weird. There's a heavy way of doing it where you force a lot of people to do a lot of things, and I don't think that's really feasible. I don't think people really like that mechanic because it's extra work, although sometimes Party Finder grabs the extra work mechanics. I don't know. But this one is the DPS start in the corners and grab their fire. You'll notice always the same. The corners are all unified, right? So they grab their fire, then they go. In this 1-2 situation, they have to figure out which one is the opposite. It's not that hard to do, right? But in this example, south happens to be the one that is ice. So they'll grab south. It could be north, right? You just have to, whatever. But whichever one it is, it'll take care of the other side as well. There shouldn't be an issue. But, fire, ice, boom. And then their third one is that they actually rotate. And this one would be very difficult to do because now that all 4 DPS are south, they now have to rotate out to the corner, or the cardinals, right? And resolve the fire with their newly found ice buff. Whereas the healers and tanks are opposites, so you have healers fire, tanks ice for the first tick, and then the healers go mid to hang on to their fire. Tanks go north, right, to get fire, so that now everyone's fire for healers and tanks, and then they just rotate out to the intercards to replace the DPS. But that's a lot of work and coordination. It's a way it could be done. I feel like it's a lot less work to just assign 2 players, one of the tanks, and then just one random DPS is like the float DPS, I guess, would be the way to do it. But in this first example, tank 1 would grab ice, hang on to ice by going mid, and then going back to north to resolve. So north is resolved except for the second tick, so we keep that in mind, right? Tank 2, south, grabs ice, right? Goes north to grab fire, so north is now totally resolved for all 3 ticks, and then replaces your float DPS. So in this example, right, it's southwest. So instead of going back home, now that he has fire, he can't go home, right? The float tank and the float DPS, which it could be either tank, just whoever gets the 2 and 3 alternate colors, I think is what it would be, or at least the 1 and 3, right? Will replace your float DPS. So in this example, tank 2 goes southwest, right? Healers, east and west, they grab their fire, then they go south, so south is resolved for second tick, then they go back, that resolves that, boom, boom, boom. DPS, they just do their corners, hang on to their color mid, and go back to their corners, except for the float DPS. The float DPS will do their corner, fire, then they're going to go south, in this example could be north, right, wherever they need to float to grab that second tick. Not because it isn't already getting resolved exactly, because it is, but just so that the other tank can resolve the other side and then safely not die. This float DPS will stay south because they went 1, 2, 1. They created a mirror here. Fire, ice, fire. Could be ice, fire, ice. Whatever. So that's what I think is going on with that mechanic for P1. If you haven't seen the mechanic, I don't have video footage of it right now. I was just in there, flying by the seat of my pants. But let me know what you think, because it would be cool to kind of get some opinions on what we should be bringing into Party Finder. But, you know, people are going to do whatever. Alright, so I'm going to go make more silly videos, I guess.